morning, and maybe I'll begin just asking you all, is there anybody who's doing a meditation retreat for the very first time in their life? A few. Oh, okay. It's good. Newcomers. It's good. I assume most of you have done one before. Nevertheless, if whatever I say is something you've heard before, well, I can just be reminding you things that you've heard and maybe forgotten, or just clarifying further. But if you're new, then maybe it'll be completely new to you. It's traditional to begin a retreat by undertaking taking the 3 refuges, and then undertaking the 8 precepts usually, but sometimes the 5 precepts. So we go to refuge, as we just chanted in Pali, to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, because the Buddha is our teacher. The historical Buddha obviously lived and died a long time ago, but we're fortunate that the teachings of Dhamma are still here in the world. And that's something the Buddha himself said we should remind ourselves of, reflect on regularly, our good fortune of having come in contact with the teachings of the Buddha. And when you take refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, you're just acknowledging that you're taking the Buddha as your teacher, the Dhamma as your teachings. You're also acknowledging and taking refuge in the Sangha of enlightened beings, that's monks, nuns, men and women who have practiced and received the fruits of the practice in the past, and also the qualities that they embody, the good practice of all the Sangha. This is important because it's just a reminder that there are human beings who have practiced what the Buddha taught, the Dhamma, and realized good things, peace, understanding, and we say liberation from suffering. There are other human beings just like us who have achieved this. It's doable. It's not beyond us as a human being. Because one of the first kind of obstacles people have to deal with when they come to practice Buddhism and have faith in the Buddha is we keep looking at the Buddha as a very special, almost superhuman being. And on one level, yes, he was totally unique, wisest person that ever lived, I would say. And we call him Samma Sambuddha, completely self-enlightened, wiser than the other teachers of his day, and his wisdom and understanding has come down to us right now today. For the last 2,500 years, these teachings have been helping people in the world to find peace and understanding. So there's a tendency to look at the Buddha more like, almost like a god. And when we're in trouble, we often pray to the Buddha, request things from Buddha, come to the temple, want a blessing from Buddha. And obviously that way of thinking is understandable, but there's a danger in that we start to separate the Buddha from the very qualities that the Buddha himself cultivated and developed in his practice, which we can also develop. What you might call Parami, the 10 Paramis, you've probably heard of before. These are spiritual perfections, or 10 qualities that we all can develop. The Buddha perfected them in the most complete way. That's something that we can all perhaps be grateful for and certainly appreciate. The sacrifice the Buddha made in his own practice to bring us the Dhamma. But still, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we can also aspire to develop these same qualities. They're not beyond us. So when we bow to the Buddha or take refuge in the Buddha, we're also bowing to those same qualities which can arise in our own heart, just as they arose in the heart of the Buddha. And you might say that you're making your aspiration clear to yourself when you take refuge or you bow to a Buddhist statue, or in these kind of situations you're making your aspiration clear to yourself to cultivate the same Parami, the same spiritual qualities as the Buddha. You might call that the Buddha on the inside. It's the historical Buddha, it's the Buddha statue, there's what you believe the Buddha to be, who he was. But then there's also these qualities, these very same qualities that you are developing for yourself right here today, in your own heart, and you're also bowing to them. Or in Thai, the word for bowing means to incline, inclining your body, bending your body down. So when we bow, we literally bend down. But mentally, to incline means you're sending your mind to those qualities, seeing them as something important, valuable to you, something you're looking up to, aspiring to, meaningful and valuable. So you incline your mind to these qualities when you remember the Buddha or you take refuge in the Buddha. So nobody is probably so deluded they say, well, I am a Buddha then. The Buddha is it within me, and they equate themselves exactly the same as a Buddha. We wouldn't do that. But still, the qualities of the Buddha are human qualities that a human mind can cultivate and develop, just the same as the Buddha did, so can we, so can I. And the Sangha are those who have done that. They've practiced this same path and follow the same teachings that the Buddha gave, realize the same peace of mind, purity of mind as the Buddha. So they're really important because they've proved to the world, to themselves, to others, that it can be done. But what is one of the biggest obstacles to practicing meditation or Buddhism on any level? One of the biggest obstacles is doubt, skeptical doubt. Did the Buddha really exist? Was he really enlightened? Are other people enlightened? Is enlightenment possible? Is practicing what the Buddha taught really possible? And you hear this often, people say, oh, these days you can't get enlightened. That's something they did a long time ago. These days you can't. But you have to be careful, because that could be our own, we say, mental defilements, impurities of understanding, impure mental states sneaking into our thinking. And sneaking in, just like a robber or a thief sneaks into your house at night. So these are the mental defilements sneaking in and saying, oh, it's too difficult to practice meditation, too much trouble, keeping precepts, it doesn't fit with modern society, therefore I don't need to do it. And the more you doubt and the more you set up that way of thinking, the less you're committed your mind is, the less you'll try, the less energy you'll put into it, the less you'll try in your practice. So it's like an excuse not to practice. And we love to do that. We let doubt take over the mind. And the Buddha pointed out that when you're caught into doubt, your mind is just wandering around in circles. I live in Australia. You're probably familiar. Australia is a huge country with lots of wilderness, desert, huge forests, mountain areas, desert areas where nobody lives. Very easy to go walking and get lost. And people do this, and sometimes they're not that far from home or population, maybe only a few kilometers away, but because the bush, the jungle is so dense, or the desert is so confusing, there's no road, no path. They get lost and they wander around and get stressed and unhappy and dehydrated and tired, and maybe they become really suffering mentally as well as physically and just give up. Hopefully, when people realize they've got lost, all the authorities, the rescue people, they come out and they find them. Usually they do. Occasionally they don't, unfortunately. But often they're only a short distance away from their home, especially kids. Sometimes they're just a few kilometers from home and they're lost in a forest somewhere on a mountain or somewhere. Or a hiker, somebody's gone hiking and just got lost only a few kilometers away. They didn't realize. And the Buddha said it's like that when you're caught into skeptical doubt, your mind doesn't know, and it's almost like it doesn't want to know. So it just goes round and round in circles. And it's hard to be peaceful and settle down, hard to commit to meditation. The ones who are doubting didn't even arrive today. They're not here, are they? They were at home thinking, maybe I'll go on a retreat, or maybe not. They didn't get past the first hurdle, and they didn't come here or commit to it. Obviously, some people have genuine reasons they can't come on a retreat, but there'll be some people who have the thought, I want to do a retreat, but then they think, it's too difficult, or I'm not ready for it. Is it really worth it, sitting with maybe a bit of difficulty, some hardship? The doubt will have stopped them coming here. That's the trouble with doubt. It sends you around in circles, your mind wandering around, you can't settle down, you can't focus. So it stops you meditating, but it stops you doing a retreat, stops you keeping precepts, even stops you doing some dharma when you want to help somebody or make an offering or a donation. It's that voice that comes up and says, I don't need to do this. Or maybe I should just hang on to my things, or there's something better I've got to do, or whatever it may be. The doubt takes you away from that moment when you stop doing that act of generosity or kindness. So doubt will come up and block you, and stop you from any kind of good action. It's the kind of the first hurdle. So when you begin the retreat, you take refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, you bow Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, you recite the words, Buddhang Saranam Gacchami. There's a whole array of many different qualities that you're bringing up and committing to and aspiring to when you do that. And one of the first things it will help you overcome is doubt. Not just doubt in the Buddha or the Dhamma or the Sangha, but doubt in yourself as well. Can I do it? You feel it, don't you? When you recite Buddhang Saranam Gacchami out loud, you get a certain energy from that, don't you? A lot of people, like just now, it's quite a good feeling. Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, everyone says that. And it's just a small thing, but it has a certain good energy to it. You feel in the right frame of mind, set your mind on keeping the precepts. That precedes that. You recite Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, then you undertake any precepts, and you're doing it out of, you might say, respect for Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, love for Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, but also self-respect, isn't it? It's also your seeing the value of yourself as a human being. It's worth doing this, it's important to me, this is good for me, and even though it may be a little bit challenging sometimes, I'm still going to do it. So many good things flow on from taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And it doesn't mean to say that you fully understand everything about the Buddha and what he taught, or that you know Nibbana already. Of course, we're just beginning our practice, or even if you're a veteran of many retreats, you're continuing your practice. You're not saying you know, you're saying I commit to this, I'm willing to try, to practice, to take it on, and learn from what I do on this retreat, what comes up, the teachings you hear from me, the actual experience of meditation, good or bad, difficult or easy, it's all something you can learn from. So it's good. And it gives you a certain strength, because once the doubt is put aside, the quality that comes up is, we say, saddha, faith, confidence that, okay, yep, I can do this, I'm going to practice for 3 days, I'm willing to put the Buddha's teachings to the test. I don't know everything that the Buddha taught yet, whether it's true or not, but I'm willing to try, willing to learn. So that gives your mind certain strength. That's what you get from saddha. Strength of mind, isn't it? So we often compare having faith in Buddha Dhamma Sangha to having fuel in your car. No fuel, your car doesn't go. Maybe even you have strong faith and you're really going to try rocket fuel. Good quality rocket fuel will really take you a long way. And maybe you rely on faith in the beginning like rocket fuel, the rocket goes out into the atmosphere and it reaches a point it doesn't need fuel anymore, just keep going. So that's important in the beginning to set aside doubts, take on the Buddha Dhamma Sangha as your refuge, and then you get that strength to practice, to be willing to put up with whatever obstacles come up. And then the first thing we turn that strength to is undertaking 8 precepts. I'm sure you're all familiar with them, you've read them, you've heard them before. The heart of the 8 precepts is the 5 precepts, which probably most of you, I would imagine at least some of the time you're trying your best to follow as guidelines. And they're really training rules, the ways you train yourself in daily life, not just on retreat. To be mindful of your actions, your speech, because this is a way we can train our mind to free our mind from the causes of suffering. And it's like the most important starting point, because we're here on a meditation retreat and we're hoping to develop some meditation, maybe some calm, some insight, samatha, vipassana, wisdom, of course, but the Buddha always said sila, or practicing precepts, or training with the precepts, is the foundation for samadhi, which is the foundation for wisdom. And they all work together, and it's not really possible to separate them out. So it's not like you can sort of leave your precepts at home and just do the meditation. They go together. And really the very qualities you employ or learn as you're undertaking precepts, whether it's 5 precepts or 8 precepts, are the same qualities you need for practicing meditation, bringing up mindfulness, developing any samadhi, practicing insight, cultivating insight into the true nature of things. You need the same qualities that you need to undertake the 5 precepts. You need some determination. You need to make an effort. You need mindfulness. You need some personal discipline, some willingness to train yourself to say, okay, I'm not going to kill or hurt even little bugs, flies. I'm not going to steal, take what is not given. I'm not going to commit acts of sexual misconduct. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to take intoxicants. All of which I'm sure you can do. We have done in the past, we can keep doing, but still we sometimes need to remind ourselves of these basic training rules. And the qualities you need to practice them are just the same as what you need to develop meditation. They go together, that one thing comes out of the other. Just as like, say, you probably, many of you have got college degrees, maybe masters, maybe even PhDs. You've all done different kinds of training, because even just learning to cook a meal involves training. We've all done different kinds of training, education, learning, and all that learning is built on many layers of learning, isn't it? You need, in order to do a master's, economics or finance, or whatever, engineering or medicine, whatever, you need to go to school first and go to Kinder and learn to read, learn to write, do your basic maths, English. You build up successive layers of information, knowledge, understanding, which helps you to progress to higher levels of education. Same with training this mind to be free from suffering, which is what we want. You begin with what's very obvious and the sort of basic stuff, but is very important. Undertaking 5 precepts. And then for a retreat, we add on 3 more precepts just to simplify things. So we don't eat in the evening, we don't have entertainments, we don't need to wear makeup, dress up, dress very simply, sleep on a simple bed, so just get enough sleep, you're not indulging in sleep, it's not a sleep time. So the extra 3 precepts are just simple guidelines to focus our energy back onto the practice, minimize distractions. So these 8 precepts are training our mind. We need mindfulness to keep them because you may forget them in a situation. Say something that's not true, or it's hurtful, or a bug comes and you slap it. Luckily there's no mosquitoes here, it seems. I checked last night and there were no mosquitoes anywhere, so very lucky. Not like Thailand, full of mosquitoes. So maybe there's no need to worry even about the first precept. So that's easy, isn't it? Makes it easy. I assume nobody is planning to rob any banks today. So you don't have to worry about the second precept, you're not going to steal. Third precept, you have to watch, we still are unenlightened beings, we still may have desire come up. Sensual desire or sexual desire may arise. But we just practice restraint. It's not a time for dating. What Palelai is not a dating agency. Not a dating app. It's a time just to focus inwards on your meditation. So watching our speech, watching our actions. It's not a time to drink, take intoxicants. If you want to meditate, that would be going in a different direction. You're here to practice clarity of mind, mindfulness, sobriety. So these 8 precepts are all very straightforward. Occasionally they catch us out or they're challenging, but generally they're very straightforward, and to keep them, you determine just to follow these rules, to keep your mind in the present moment, knowing what you're saying, what you're doing, and restricting any extreme, unskillful speech or actions. So it provides a kind of a limit or a boundary around your behavior while you're on retreat. It's very easy to live together, and this is one of the benefits the Buddha said for keeping precepts, whether it's 5 precepts, 8 precepts, or the Vinaya of Sangha, the hundreds of rules we keep. One of the main benefits is it allows small or large numbers of people to be together peacefully. We can sit down here, we don't have to be suspicious or afraid of each other, because we have precepts, we're following those guidelines. You don't have to be worrying, is someone going to steal my things, is someone going to verbally abuse me? You don't have to worry about those things when you have a group of people keeping precepts together. It's very peaceful. So already, it's like you're in heaven already. You're in heaven now. This is heaven for this number of human beings to be in a place together for a whole day or several days, and to be at ease like this. This is heaven. It doesn't get better than this. whatever you can imagine. It doesn't really get better than this. Sure, your mind is still not peaceful, maybe. You still have all kinds of thoughts, and worries, and irritations, and still have greed. When you're on meditation retreat, number one for greed is food. You keep thinking about food, what's for lunch. But these are very manageable mind states. They'll still come up, but you're not letting them come out in your behavior. So we can all be together peacefully, easily. And there's no limit to this, because we have 100 people here. So like, some of you maybe have been to Ajahn Chah's monastery in January, where they have the big retreat where everyone comes together and camps. And sometimes they have 4,000 or 5,000 people camping, monks, nuns, men, women like yourselves, and they're very peaceful. Arguments and fights, no one's getting drunk. It's all very peaceful because people keep the precepts. So whether it's a small unit, a family, if the family aspire to keep precepts, then that family will be a peaceful place. Or even if you only have one member of the family keeping precepts, following that guideline, that one person will pull everyone else into good, better behavior. It even works in the workplace. Your workplace is full of tensions and difficulties, I know, but if you have one person willing to keep the 5 precepts in the workplace, it has such a good effect on everyone else. They need to be strong, they need to be patient with situations that arise, but that person can influence the people around them in a very good way. Good example. So in the family, the workplace, the neighbourhood, keeping the precepts won't remove all the world's problems, but what it does is makes you safe for other people, safe for yourself. You're protecting yourself against yourself, because your worst tendencies are on the inside, you're not letting them out. And then you're protecting the people and even the wildlife around you. So the Buddha said keeping precepts, it's a protection for the world, it's a gift for the world, it's a good example for other people. Again, this is why on a retreat we get a good energy and get some help as we're practicing, because we see other people practicing restraint, mindful, keeping precepts. We see that it helps us. Be out of place if we were breaking the precepts, because when the majority of people keep the precepts, then if one person doesn't, then they become out of place. It doesn't fit. So it's a way we help each other. So it doesn't matter whether it's a few people or hundreds of people. We all benefit from training, working with the precepts. And perhaps the more refined or special benefit is that when you come to meditate, the mind is already prepared. You've done the groundwork by keeping precepts. When you meditate, you may still have many obstacles, worries, different problems arise in your mind, but they're not going to be overwhelming so much because you've already been trained in the precepts. You'll notice if you don't keep the precepts, sometimes you forget yourself. Where will it come up? When you meditate. When you come to sit meditation, when you're quiet, those memories start to come into your mind. What you've said, what you've done, pops up. Your mind is like a computer, it records everything. It's like CCTV, you can't escape it. So you're sitting there and the replay comes up, what you said, the argument, what you did. Because you're present every time you break a precept, you remember you're there. That's why somebody who doesn't meditate misses this point. They always think, well, if no one sees me, it doesn't matter. But there's always one person who sees you, and that's yourself. And if you're intent on improving, following the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, improving yourself, well, you're your own witness. You're the one who has to take charge and say, I'm the one who has to train. I won't kill that fly, that ant. And I won't say those harsh words, or watch what I say. Whatever it is, the situation where you're tempted to break the precept, your own mind can come up and say, no, I won't do that. You take responsibility. So from the precepts you get a certain ease, you feel okay with yourself. Nobody's expecting to be perfect. None of us are perfect, but you feel at ease enough with yourself that when you begin meditating, whatever comes up doesn't bother you too much. You feel relatively at ease. And the Buddha said, the way to learn from precepts is okay, you accept sometimes you make a mistake. You say something you regret. You hurt someone else, or you feel uncomfortable with yourself. What do? You acknowledge. You set it right in your mind. Is I'm not going to do that again. I won't say that again. And then you move on. So once you've gone through that process mindfully, then you don't have to carry your mistakes around as baggage or feel guilty. If you really acknowledge something, you let it go and you move on. So even if we have made mistakes in the past, okay, you accept that, but you don't have to keep suffering with it. You're learning from your mistakes. They become your teachers. And you'll see that in meditation. If you acknowledge something, you know it's happened, you said something, did something, now you can move on, letting it go. You don't have to worry about the past. What did somebody asked the Buddha, what do we think about most as human beings? The past. And a lot of the past is past mistakes and things that we regret that we did or said in the past. It keeps coming up in our mind, doesn't it? So we have to learn how to deal with that skillfully. So as you're sitting in meditation, maybe you remember something that got you angry or afraid or you feel bad about yourself. You have to acknowledge it. You can't hide from it. But then you have to mindfully let go and say, well, I'm not going to do that again. Now I understand where I went wrong. I won't do that again. You move on. So your mind can grow from that. It learns. You become wiser. Your mind improves. And that's a big part of meditation, even though we're meditating on the breath, for example, or any of the other techniques that we might talk about over the next couple of days. This sort of thing will come up, won't it? You'll have memories, past memories of things you've said and done. How are you going to deal with them? You establish mindfulness, you understand what is the skillful thing, what is the unskillful thing. The unskillful thing, you say, I know that, I acknowledge that, and now I'll let that go and I'm not going to repeat that. Next time I won't do that. And so you move on, free from the past, and let it go. So the precepts directly support the training of the mind in meditation. They're not different, they're not separate. But as we practice meditation, our mindfulness will improve and we'll be much clearer and more aware of what we're thinking. And you'll see this relationship between your precepts, your actions, your speech, and what you're thinking. And one of the main things we're learning in meditation is how to separate between the wholesome, what we call kusala karma, wholesome karma, and the unwholesome, akusala karma. And where's that separation taking place? In our mind. And so we're training to watch and know our own mind as we meditate. And that's the same whether we're walking meditation, sitting meditation. If we're using the breath as our meditation technique. And as we put attention on the breathing, thoughts come up, and you can be aware of them. Some are wholesome, some are unwholesome. And what did the Buddha say? Well, the unwholesome ones cause us stress, suffering. Thoughts of anger, rooted in anger. So it could be very mild irritation, aversion, or it could be very strong hatred. Either way, it makes us suffer, doesn't it? And we hold on to thoughts of aversion or rooted in anger and aversion, we suffer. So let them go. Thoughts rooted in greed make us suffer. When you have greed, meaning any form of desire, it could be just a slight thought, just something about something you want to eat. Oh, I really like that, I want to eat that. Or it could be something very big, very clinging to life itself. So when you're ill and you're worried, how long am I going to live? It could be that. All kinds of very major, large, powerful emotions, or very minor, very ordinary kind of thoughts. But any thought rooted in greed will agitate your mind, because it means there's something you want that you haven't got. And then you think, oh, I wish I had that, I want this, I want that. Your mind at that moment is not peaceful, is it? Because if you follow that thought, it's like, I need this to be happy. I need that to be happy. Probably first thing in the morning, I need my coffee to be happy. So that could be, and I'm not saying anything against coffee drinking, and just an example of a very minor, ordinary thought, I need this coffee. So already you set up a little bit of greed and attachment there. So if you don't get your coffee, you feel a little bit irritated. Maybe that's a sign you drink too much coffee, I don't know. But if you don't get what you are wanting, you suffer, don't you? Or even as you're waiting for it, even in the line, I'm waiting in the line, why is the line taking so long? I don't know about Singapore, whether they have drive-through coffee places, but in Australia they do. People are in the line, they've got to get to work, they're all so anticipating they've got to get their coffee, honk the horn, come on, get a move on. And the poor serving person, girl or boy, whether it's McDonald's or wherever, they're moving really fast trying to serve everyone, and everyone's getting tense. Part of that is greed, isn't it? We push people, other people, when we want something, we push ourselves. And it's not coming from peace, is it? It's coming from the movement of the mind wanting something. That's something to reflect on in your meditation. If you have nothing that you want, and there'll be times in your day when there's nothing you want, it's peaceful, isn't it? Right now, maybe you want me to stop talking, I don't know. So if you want the monk to stop talking, that's wanting, so you're suffering, right? Or you may want the monk to keep on talking, but the monk stops. Hey, why did he stop? It's just an example. But all this wanting causes us suffering. But as you meditate, you're looking at that, and this is what we call unwholesome mental states, unwholesome dhammas. And what did the Buddha say? He said, abandon them, let them go. So straight away that will give you an insight of what are the qualities that help you to let go when you have some desire or something you want and you haven't got it and you're feeling agitated. Patience. If you can be patient with that, already you feel better in that situation. So if you've ever read the Dhammapada or the teaching we call the Awada Patimokkha, or the Buddha say, Kanti Paramanta Bodhitika. Patient endurance is the highest austerity or the best quality for burning up mental defilements. It's like a fire, but a good fire, a useful fire, for like a rubbish fire, burning up rubbish. You throw your greed, your anger into the fire of patience and it just disappears, isn't it? So you're sitting here saying, when's the session going to end? My legs hurt, I feel tired, your mind is not peaceful. You just say, well, I'm going to be patient with this. I'm going to sit here, I'll watch. Suddenly your whole attitude changes, doesn't it? And you feel a little bit more relaxed. You may still have some pain or discomfort, but your attitude towards it changes when you bring up patience. When you remind yourself to be patient. That's why when you go to the hospital with an illness, they call you a patient. That's true. That's what it's for. It's to remind you what you need to do. You have to be patient. Well, if you're facing any challenge in life, whether it's on the meditation cushion, dealing with a difficult person, stuck in a traffic jam, or you're ill, or you're worried, be patient, and already that helps you to get a better perspective, a better understanding. So the practice of knowing your mind, whether it's in a wholesome state, which is to be cultivated, you don't need to let go of the wholesome states, or the unwholesome states, which are to be abandoned. Patience will help you do that, because patience gives you this grounding. You're willing to take time, you're willing to do what needs to be done, and you keep a good attitude while you're doing it. So as you're meditating, you may face some physical discomfort. You feel tired, you feel pain, or mental discomfort, all kinds of thoughts, worries, sleepiness coming up. Okay, these things happen, but if you consciously bring out the patience, then your attitude is one of, I can learn from this, I'm going to work with this, I'll get through this. You have a much better attitude. So sometimes they call patience the parents of the mind. And we've all got parents, and what were our parents like when we were little kids? They were patient with us. You might remember a few times when your parents weren't patient with you, they stick in your mind, but actually the majority of the time, they were very patient with you. When you ask any young mother, your 6-week-old baby is crying and screaming at 3 a.m., you're just patient with them, aren't you? You get up, feed them, clean them, do what you need to do. Because you know there's nothing else to be done, they need your help. And that goes on right through childhood, and even into adulthood. Some parents are still being patient with their children when they're 30 or 40 years old. I don't know. But certainly through childhood, you need patience, and it's very natural for parents to have it. So as you meditate, you need to have the patience of a parent as you're dealing with yourself, your own body, your own mind. Then you think of your parents, and that helps you to be more patient, stronger. Or you think of a teacher, you think of Buddha, you get patience. Or you think of a teacher, any teacher that you have faith in, you get some patience. What you find is a very supportive quality as you're dealing with this mind that throws up so many thoughts, good, bad, random, very deliberate, sometimes falling asleep. You need the patience. To keep the precepts, you need the patience. To sit in meditation for a period of time, you need patience. To walk meditation for half an hour, in a moment we'll be doing that, you need patience. Because if you're going to do something, a task, for a period of time, and it's a very simple, repetitive task, so like walking back and forth, part of your mind will resist or rebel or say, I don't want to do this. You walk for a few moments and then you look up, you look around, or you remember something, or maybe I should be over there doing this job, or maybe you have a doubt, why am I doing this anyway? You need the patience. And the patience is I just keep completing the task, mindfully watching your feet going back and forth for half an hour. You need patience to complete that. You need patience to complete the whole course. Complete every session of sitting, walking, listening to talks, through till the end of the day. You need to be patient. If you're not patient, you run away, you leave. You find an excuse to leave. patience comes from seeing the value of being patient in a situation, seeing how it will help you. Sometimes people can be very inspired and say, I'm going to do this retreat, I'm going to attain jhana or samadhi, or I want to become enlightened. And the more they kind of work themselves up, but the less they realize how much they need patience, then the easier it is for them to fall into disappointment. As soon as their mind is not very peaceful, and they say, oh, I can't do this, it's not what I want, or they'll tend to say, oh, the place is not right, or the meditation is not right, or the teacher is not right, or something is not right, and off they go. We've had that before. Somebody comes to the monastery and they say, I'm here and I want to practice, I want to become a monk and I want to become enlightened, I'm going to do it, and in 3 days they leave. So why? Why do they leave? Oh, I can't do it. They get impatient. They thought they would get quick results, easy results. If you're truly patient, maybe your mind is not even worried about results. They come quickly, they come slowly. Doesn't matter. You're willing to take the time to practice. You think how patient the Buddha was from the time he became a bodhisattva. You probably know the story. It was Sumedha, the hermit, and he met Dipangara the Buddha. And he was so inspired, he saw the Buddha, the peace, the radiance of the Buddha. The Buddha had all the monks with him, all the lay people following. He said, that's what I want to be, I want to be a Buddha. And he's already a hermit, he already had many good qualities, I'm sure. But he wasn't yet a Buddha, so he bowed down in the muddy puddle. He said to the Buddha, I invite you to just tread on my back and go over my body to avoid getting muddy. And as the Buddha trod on his back to go over the muddy puddle, he made his wish in his mind, I wish to become a Buddha like Dipangara the Buddha. And the Buddha knew what he was thinking, so the Buddha turned around to the monks afterwards and said, this hermit aspires to become a Buddha, and he will become a Buddha in so many eons in the future. He'll become a Buddha, go to another Buddha. And it came true. But you think from that moment until he became a Buddha, how many lifetimes and how much difficulty and trouble he went through for the good of everyone, he said. He was doing it for all beings. So whatever problem you encounter in your meditation, the Buddha's been through it all. The restless mind, the aching knees, the tiredness, all the desires coming out, wanting this, wanting that. He's been through it all. So if you need patience, then you're the Buddha. It'll help you to be a little bit more patient with your own mind, your own body. Or you think of Ajahn Chah. That's what I do quite often if I need patience. Or anyone else. It could be you think of your parents when they brought you up, or some Kalyana Mitta, a friend of yours, who you think of them and you get more patience. Being patient with your mind is one of the most useful things you'll have on this retreat. So we've reached our time, I think, for the end of the morning session. I'll finish the talk there.